Hi, dear friends. What would you say if I asked you about where your most unexpectedly unique travel experience was? Well, for me, it was definitely Laos. We recently came back from a backpacking trip with my husband, and now that my impressions are still fresh, I had an immense need to speak about the reality and things that we experienced but didn't expect. So, let's dive right in. Before I go on, let me give you a short overview of Laos. Laos is a landlocked country in Southeast Asia with a tropical climate. It has forested mountains, high plateaus, and flat plains. The country is mostly rural and agricultural, with a population of about 7.5 million people. Buddhism is the main religion, while indigenous and minority groups follow their own unique religious and artistic traditions. In terms of economy, Laos is heavily dependent on foreign investment, mainly due to the disruption during the Civil War period, late 50s to 75. It is a one-party socialist republic, the first one we ever visited, which made the trip even more unique. Now, let's go over some of our lessons learned so that you don't have to. First, visa. We learned the hard way that most of the official information about getting a visa for Laos online is outdated. We hopped on a bus from Hanoi, Vietnam, which took 12 hours to get to the border, only to find out that we can't apply for a visa at the border. We were a couple of tourists and all of us had to hitchhike a bus back to Hanoi, apply for a visa in the Laos consulate, and do exactly the same travel the next day. While all of this was a hassle, while waiting at the border, I had the best coffee ever in my life, in an improvised shop, so it was worth it. In short, if you're in Vietnam before visiting Laos, please apply for a visa early in the morning at the Laos consulate in Hanoi to get it later during the day, and only then organize your trip. Second, transportation. If you only look at Laos on Google Maps and compare it to other countries in the region, you will notice that roads are scarce. We found it adventurous, but in fact, not only are there few roads, but they're also bumpy, curvy, and oftentimes dangerous. I remember checking on Google Maps that less than 100 kilometers took us more than 4 hours. The bus that takes 12 hours from Hanoi to the border took another 24 hours to get to Luang Prabang, and that was the craziest ride we ever had in our lives. We constantly had to overtake huge trucks on narrow roads in the night with no lights. Seriously, bus trips in Laos take significant mental preparation. Suddenly, roads in Macedonia felt like heaven. Also, when traveling by local bus, do not be surprised if the bus is old, smelly, and full of cargo despite passengers, sometimes including fresh meat, animals, and furniture. Passengers are actually the last reason why local buses operate. Their initial purpose is cargo delivery. So, be prepared that the bus will stop regularly until all the cargo is delivered. For us, that sometimes meant literally circling around our destination for an hour until the bus was empty of goods and ready to go on. To sum up, if you decide to travel by a local bus, we will prepare that time is relative. If you wish to stick to a schedule, it's better to fly or take the train. The train only goes a vertical line from north to south, but it's worth exploring the option. Third, tours. We were initially planning to potentially go on some tours. The popular ones include hiking, kayaking, tubing, paragliding, ziplining, etc. When you're reading travel blogs, it sounds like Laos is a heavenly destination for adventurers. And most of the travel agencies are ensuring that you'll have an authentic and local experience, such as camping in the jungle, seeing wildlife including tigers, staying in a remote village without electricity with a local family, spotting elephants in the wilderness, etc. All of this sounds amazing, and many tourists decide to go for these tours and are actually thrilled. However, we found that the jungle is rather woods that is often deforested, tigers have not been seen since the 90s, some local villagers dress up for tourists, paragliding is actually with motors, tubing is a pub crawl through the river, and elephants are not in the wilderness but rather kept in cages. I'm sure that there are ethical tourist agencies with credibility, but please do your research before deciding to go. Fourth, reviews. This goes for accommodation, restaurants, tours, and any type of service you might need as a backpacker. We'd book our accommodation through booking.com, and as everyone else, we would look at the reviews and the general score. Cleanliness, for example, was one of the important ones for us. The first mistake we made was our very first hostel. Despite the score being almost more than 9, it was one of the worst places we've ever slept in. And trust me, we've had our fair share. After some research and long into the trip, I looked at reviews more closely and found out that there are a lot of fake ones. ChatGPT generated, some are exactly the same with paragraphs in different order, and some are just copy-paste from the accommodation's description box. Same goes for restaurants. Be aware of this. Reading reviews more carefully does take more time, but try to look for authentic reviews and always read the bad ones. Well, friends, I hope this will give you an idea of how to prepare better for a backpacking trip in Laos. Despite all the lessons learned, Laos is a country worth visiting, and the biggest lesson we learned while being there was time is relative and you just have to go with the flow. And that was actually quite liberating, especially coming from a dynamic and fast-paced world. I won't be going over places to visit and things to do, as I think that's highly dependent on the type of traveler you are. But if you decide to go to Laos, make sure it's going to be in October, when the landscapes are lush and green, and the weather is pleasant. Thank you for watching this video, and let me know in the comments below whether you're planning to go to Laos or you have already been and what you experienced. See you in the next video, and thank you. Bye! Злато, се смешкаш, леле, рацете те болета. Треба уште еден торжеќе.